Welcome back to Showing Up Whole, the place where we discuss alignment in mind, body, heart, and spirit in every aspect of our lives. And today I am so excited to be welcoming in Monica Ion into the show. Monica is the founder of the School of Universal Laws and FTP Methodology, spending 15,000 hours between 2016, that's a long time, and 2024 working with clients worldwide. She's supported entrepreneurs to achieve exponential growth and assisted women in creating personal, financial, and professional fulfillment, all with the 7 universal laws that she uses that would be found to be the most relevant to understanding how the mind operates and creates lasting transformation. Ooh, I love this conversation already. Monica is the co-founder of Inspired Life Circle and was rated as Romania's #1 coach for the country's top business leaders. Her expertise has been featured in media outlets such as Forbes, BDE TV, and The Women, and her forthcoming book, The 7 Universal Laws, will be available on Amazon in May 2025. We've already started chatting a little bit, found out how many things we have in common, and I'm so excited to be starting this conversation. Monica, it is wonderful to have you here. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you very much, Christina, for having me. It's such a pleasure, and I so much love your work because we are kind of doing the same thing from probably different angles. And alignment, as you said it at the beginning, is one of the very most important things we can do in our lives, so we have a fulfilled life.
I totally agree. And you know what? If there's anything I love about having conversations on this podcast, it is actually seeing how that works on so many different levels and different perspectives. It's like we're like a prism when we all have different shafts of that light that just relay in itself in different ways. So I'm excited to be diving into how you explore that. The 7 universal laws, it's so interesting. We think of universal laws, everyone goes, law of attraction. It's like it just spills out, doesn't it? It's like law of attraction. But there are 7. I mean, in condensed versions, I suppose, to begin with, what are the 7 universal laws that you have found really taps into alignment?
I'm using 7 out of I don't know how many universal laws because there are more, but the 7 I'm using, they are actually applicable to the human mind, and I found a way to apply them to human mind and human behavior. These laws are unchanging. They exist from before time, and we start to discover them and prove them to be true using sciences. So they have a background in science, these universal laws of physics and mathematics, and we just apply them in human psychology in the way the human mind works.
Okay, so how do you start even beginning to tap into that? How does that look? Like that's like this tip of this iceberg, and I want to go deep.
Sure.
So what would be the first one that's the the highest priority for people to fully grasp? What would be the one that you went, this is how you actually claim yourself? I guess to reframe that question in some ways, I'm always fascinated by the choice, the decision to find alignment. I find we teeter-totter so often on whether we align or not. What would be the easiest law to integrate into your life so that you can really choose to align?
That's an amazing question. And thank you very much for this beautiful introduction to connect alignment with the universal laws. I would say the law of duality, which probably almost everybody knows. The law of duality is the most easy to apply and to understand. And just as a framework, I would say that in my approach about how I work with clients, I consider that alignment is there. So it exists. And it's always a perfect balance. That alignment is always a perfect balance. When you see that, you perceive that you are in alignment. That perfect balance is actually the law of duality applied. And the law of duality states that everything is in perfect order, in perfect balance between positives and negatives of a situation. So everything that happens for you. And inner alignment means to recognize how those things happen for you. Let's take, for instance, criticism. And let's say that one of my colleagues criticized one of my webinars. It's just an example, a hypothetical example. So let's say she criticized one of my webinars, and she had a very specific idea about what I did, and she considers I did wrong. I can consider that as an offense, and I will be misaligned with myself, and I will see that there are more drawbacks than benefits to that situation. Or I can see the benefits of the situation, see them equally to the drawbacks, and then understand how that criticism actually supported me on my mission and in my inner alignment. So the law of duality states that everything is in perfect order and it has benefits and drawbacks equally. This would be like the presence of God with all those layers there, like positives and negatives. If you are able to see that and to see how that perfect balance of positives and negatives happens for you and serves you in achieving your highest potential, then we would say that you are in alignment. If you perceive more positives than negatives, you will be in love with something, having the fear of losing that thing. And then that's misalignment. When you fall in love with a house, with a person, with an employee, with a product, you have equally the fear of losing that traits you admire about those. So that's misalignment. On the other side, when you see more drawbacks than benefits to a specific situation, you would describe that as being painful. It's misalignment. It's not a perfect balance.
Right. It's so interesting because when you talk about like falling in love with something, it brings it back to that ancient religious concept of having that attachment, right? It's like it's being attached to something. It's that attachment is suffering, right? From the old Buddhist tradition
Yes.
of understanding that when you are attached to something, then you are fearful of losing that something. And I always find it interesting though, because then when you actually take it to the path of your own alignment, what often people forget is that the nuanced version of is that you can actually become attached to the version of being in alignment. It's almost like we perceive ideas of what the aligned version of ourselves look like. For instance, going back to the idea of the webinar, if you are in the webinar, you want the most successful webinar, you might have thoughts about what that most successful version look like, which you could become attached to. And then that would be what shifted you out of alignment, if that makes sense.
Yes.
It then, so basically it has to come from a place of not being attached to what you perceive as the outcome, but rather trusting that whatever flows in is highest good.
Yes, definitely. I love how you phrased it. And that's actually I feel it's very true in the framework I'm using to with the universal laws. Because when you are attached to something and you are having the fear of losing it, it's already a state that's not there anymore. Ideal, it's in the future or in the past because you thought about it and it was supposed to be in a certain way and it wasn't. So this is where the law of duality actually steps in by asking the right question. So when you have the unbalanced situation, when you see more benefits than drawbacks, you can ask the question, what are the drawbacks of the ideal situation? So you bring back things in balance. When you see more negatives than positives for a situation, you can ask the benefit, what were the benefits of the specific situation? So what were the benefits of my colleague criticizing me? What would be the drawbacks if I achieved the perfect webinar I wanted to achieve? And then the mind is actually free and is able to be present, because if it's attached to something positive or negative, trying to avoid the pain, seeking the pleasure, then it's not free. You cannot be present.
I love that. That's beautifully said. Within this, there is a lot of developing the observer self. And the observer mind is always that is the first decision, isn't it? It's the first step of actually saying, wait, I'm not going to just be in reaction mode and be in this kind of mud. I'm going to take myself a step back and really watch how I react to things. How do you support or encourage your clients to develop that ability to perceive what they're reacting to be able to take that stopgap, if that makes sense?
Sure. First of all, that's an amazing question because I feel, and it's my experience of over 15,000 hours of one-on-one work, that when somebody is not able to step into the observer role, it is because they live too much in survival mode. Survival mode only means that it's constantly running and try to achieve something because they perceive it's not enough. It doesn't matter if in reality it's enough. It's the perception they have. So they can be millionaires, for instance, and still be in the survival mode type of thinking. As someone is in the survival mode, it's very gravitational. So it runs the story over and over and over again, and it's very connected with the amygdala of the brain. And in order for one to be able to step out of that and step into the forebrain and be able actually to understand what's going on with them and staying more in that state of mind, the laws or the universal laws actually help. Because when I'm asking you, when someone says a story about a victim story, something negative happened, and then I'm asking the question, for instance, my husband left me. And I'm asking the question, how have you co-created that? What of your subconscious thoughts actually was manifested in your husband leaving? Then you cannot answer that question with the amygdala. It's impossible. You have to step into the forebrain and start thinking about your thinking. And that brings the person out of that survival mode, even though they feel like punching me sometimes, because that's a very annoying question, like, you know what I'm
Oh,
talking
we
about.
have so much in common. Yes.
You annoy sometimes
Oh,
people with your
yes.
question too.
Oh, yes, absolutely. It is an annoying question, but it has to be asked. It is, I think probably my kids get the most annoyed when I ask that question of like, oh, why have you attracted this into your life?
Yes.
But it is a vitally important question because if you are into manifestation, if you want to look at law of attraction, if you want to actively be using these laws in your life, you have to actually be brave enough to actually ask yourself the question of what is creating it. So yeah, absolutely. But it does annoy me.
Yes. And if I may connect with what we spoke about earlier with the law of duality, with the law of order, I call it the law of order because you are able to manifest to the degree you have order with. So, what does it mean to have order at something, in something? I want to achieve a certain goal. If I see that by achieving that goal, I will have more positives than negatives, I will have the fear of not achieving that. I cannot be present. I cannot act strategically. I will react. So I will not have order because my emotions will run me. I will not be able to be in the present. So I'm combining these laws and asking the question that help people to manifest or to achieve what they want. So for instance, applying the law of duality and the law of order all together, in working towards achieving something, the first question I ask is, what are the drawbacks if you achieve what you want? And what are the benefits if you stay where you are? And it's unbelievable what's happening there because people start to discover their beliefs. They start to discover the self-sabotaging strategies they are running, and what's important truly for them, more important than that goal, and then how can they align whatever is truly important for their brain with that goal, which sometimes it's not a real objective for them, for their heart, for their being. They want to achieve that because that's trendy, for instance.
I love that you've brought this up because honestly, it's always, I think that's why I'm always so fascinated when I say that, I'm fascinated about the choice of actually aligning to something. So often you can approach something, you come up with a dream or a desire or even what you think, you know, even if you're not in business, like absolutely anyone will have a desire of some type. And you lean into that desire. And it's amazing when you actually ask yourself, are you really, really deciding to have this? Or is this a should want? Or is it a sense of, well, that's what, everybody wants that. So surely I want that. It's amazing how easy it is to just kind of assimilate a desire and assume that that's what you're actually really going to want. Hmm. Which
Yes.
which comes first? In your experience, it's a fascinating thing because in some ways, is it a question of you having integral desires that all of a sudden your brain has to understand? Or do you find that by using the laws and observing yourself, the person comes up with the desire first and then aligns to it? Which is their question in there? If you know what I mean, is there an integral sense of this is my path usually, and then that they align to, sometimes maybe not even realizing right away what it is? Or do you find that you often work with people who have an idea out there and then you call it in for them, with them? That's iffy.
I would like, yeah, I would like to have a linear answer, but I don't. I see two ways of being. One is from inner alignment. And then from that inner alignment, clients know and they have certainty about what they are invited to do. And that invitation comes from within. So nobody says, I should do that, but I'm inspired to do that. I love to do that. And you just see the next step. Because as you work in that alignment, it's kind of more and more is revealed to you. Like the vision is expanding, not because you are doing it on purpose. I'm building my vision. It's because it is revealed to you. That's your inner alignment with your higher self, with your soul, and with God.
Mhm.
The other story is when people are wanting things. Now, the big issue with wanting is that if you want something, it means that you are lacking it. If you are lacking it, how on earth would you able to manifest it? Because the inner construction is that you are lacking it.
Mhm.
So then we are using the law of transformation there as well, seeing what's the form you already have that in. But now, from my experience, and I try different things in those 15,000 hours of work, and I
That's
try different things. Now, if you're asking me, would I work with someone to support them to achieve something they want, even though I know it's not aligned with them because I see it and I hear it? No, I wouldn't do that now. If you asked me that 4 years ago, I would say yes, let's push through and do it because the mind can be rewired to do that. So it's not a problem of technicalities. It can be done. But the effort you put in and the price you pay, sometimes you feel, I mean, one feels it's not worth it.
honestly, you said you didn't have an answer for that, but I think you did.
It's not a linear one, it's a more complicated one.
Because, but I think you've landed on something vitally important to understand that the first step is really falling into that state of alignment, and finding that inner knowing. And then it's interesting. I had a conversation with my daughter not that long ago, and she's really been leaning into the idea of alignment and being true to yourself, and taking up her meditation and her manifestation and things. And she was talking to a friend of hers about some worry of some kind, of something going wrong. And she's like, she says, as long as you work on your own alignment, as long as you're making sure that you are staying true to yourself, she's like, I think you get to the point where really, do you have to worry? If something goes wrong, then it happens for a reason. She's like, if you're not in alignment to yourself and something goes wrong, then you need to look at your attraction point and why you're bringing something in. And she's like, and then you need to come back into alignment. But if you're from alignment, then whatever happens must be for a reason to get you to your goal. And it was such a simplistic, wonderfully clear way of putting it. And so basically, that's in a lot of ways what you're saying, that you want to find that inner alignment first, making sure that you are being true to yourself, which we've had the law of making sure that you are weighing up those options and shifting between observing your positive and negatives. What law, or is there one of the laws, that will help you know that deeper aligned version of yourself, or magnetize that, or amplify that?
I'm not sure it's a law, rather a strategic way to apply those laws. When I started to work with the universal laws, first things I did with clients was to work on their past experiences, painful experiences, positive without negative experiences, because anything the mind is attached to, positive or negative, telling the same story again and again, doesn't allow you to see what's truly there. You are recreating the same story over and over again. So this is why an important part of my work is to have a very good foundation for whatever people want to achieve. And that very good foundation is to truly work strategically on the past. And the first things I'm doing with the clients, or I used to do with clients in individual sessions, and then I created group sessions for the same purpose, is to work on your past experiences, on traumas, your relationship with your father and your mother. When you have, you are able to see objectively what happened and see that everything happened for you to be able to fulfill your mission, then you are able to let go of the stories of the past. Even those stories you take over unconsciously, subconsciously, by the stories your parents are telling you or by their behaviors. And the future is not able to be revealed to you if you are running the old stories. You are not able to see it. But when you work on your past, in my experience, when you work on your past, bits and pieces of the future starts to reveal and understand. Actually, you're able to understand what's the direction and how everything from the past, even the deepest traumas, brought light into your life and supported you to discover the strength you have within and to discover maybe your mission, even your mission. So part of my work is to focus on strategically on the past, so we can transform that as a foundation and the source of power, of fuel for the future. I trust that you cannot foresee a clear future, which is aligned, it's not a want, it's an aligned, God-given mission, if you want to. You are not able to see that if you are with your mind conditioned by the past experiences.
Oh, yes. Yes. I absolutely agree. And I think that's such a um it's such an important it's almost like clearing out the weeds in a garden, isn't it? It's like you have the garden space, you know what you want to plant, but you have to clear everything out and create fertile land in order to actually make that thrive. So within that, the clearing out of the past and helping people really tap into themselves. There's so much love and compassion that needs to be fostered as well. Do you find that that is part of the is there a law that talks about compassion? I've often heard of like the law of compassion or and I don't know if that's one of the laws that you work with or the law of compensation. And those do you find that those flow in the person's beginning stages where they are actually dealing with their past? Or is it what actually helps create both within the future? Or is that all together? Because there's a lot of self-love that flows through this, isn't there?
Completely agree. And that's a very, very beautiful perspective and a very, I think, amazing connection that you made there with love. I see love as being the perfection of the balance between positives and negatives. So when a parent, for instance, and I know I'm on a touchy subject now, but it happened to me, okay? So I'm not speaking about anybody else, I'm speaking about me. When I was a kid and then a young adult, my father used to beat me up with a belt. So took my panties off and then he beat me up until I was almost 18 years old.
Oh my
So
goodness.
now, if we are thinking about that story, it doesn't matter if it happened to me, it happened to millions of people. If I'm looking at that and I try to approach it with compassion, and compassion means to suffer with, it will take me to understand why my father did that, understand his limitations, and getting into the story of maybe forgiveness.
Mhm.
But if I'm seeing the perfection of that, and I'm able to see how that served me in the moment and from that moment on, how it was a blessing to me, not transforming something negative into positive, but seeing the balanced situation and understand and feel it, how it happened for me, then I'm able to love my father for what he did for me, not to me. And then I'm not speaking about forgiveness. I'm not speaking about compassion, but I'm speaking about love manifested in a form that actually supported me to be where I am today, and supported me now, back then, to make a decision that was actually one of the best decisions I made in my life, to never go back in my hometown. I was so motivated to make it on my own because I didn't want to go back to that pain. And I had layers of my communication with my father on that. The first one was when I went to some personal development courses, and I finally found the courage to speak with him about it. Now, just imagine that I was a very, very shy, oversensitive, highly sensitive person. And I was just in pain when I was speaking about what happened to me with my father. So I wasn't able to speak about it without crying. And then I went through some healing, and I went back to my father and I told him, could you listen to me, please? And I had a conversation with my father and my mother about what happened in my past and how I saw things. And I told my father, I don't think I will be able to forgive you for what you did to me. And I asked him questions to understand how he was thinking, what was his strategy, why did he behave he did with me, really trying to understand. But it didn't bring healing. It didn't bring healing. And then when I discovered the universal laws and started to work with them, I was able to be grateful for the experiences I had with my father. And this is a very emotional subject because my mother was dying. We both knew that she was dying. And I remember exactly where we were. We had a walk with my father around in a park in Cluj in Transylvania. And I told him, I want you to know that I'm grateful for what you did with the beatings. I saw the perfection in those beatings. And my father started to cry. And he said, thank you for saying that. So it was a blissful moment. It wasn't about forgiveness. It was like we were both blessed in that moment. And I wasn't able to get to that inner alignment and peace with any other methods. This is why I really feel that the universal laws do an amazing transformation, inner transformation when working with people.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That's a profound story that I'm sure will touch a lot of people. Thank you. Um, it is it's interesting how we seem to have human beings like simple solutions, I think. And the concept of forgiveness, when people talk about their past, they think, oh, well, just forgive it. And it feels, I mean, personally, and anyone who works with me, they know that I'm not about forgiveness. I will release. And it sounds like what you're talking about is very similar. It's the sense of actually acknowledging the energy that's been there and releasing it so it clears from you, and you get to take whatever gold you can from it and you release the rest so then you can move on. You give their stuff back to them. Your father, I'm sure, had a lot of things that he had to deal with, and you were not taking those on. You gave it back to him of saying, I don't know why you did this, and I give this back to you, that I see what the gold that I can take from it is. It doesn't, it doesn't, it doesn't make it an okay thing that he did, but it did help you become the person you are today. That's a beautiful testament to how this works. How did you discover the laws? I'm curious.
That's a long story. I started with book called Kybalion, where they are mentioning laws, universal laws. I wasn't pleased with that, so I started to study and go deeper and go deeper. And I took a lot of courses, even advanced astrophysics courses, astrology, lots of things. also practical courses as well. So it developed, started from my 30s and developed over the years.
Mhm. Yeah, it does. And I mean, it's an interesting thing when we discover kind of one of these rabbit holes that they just keep bringing us more gold, and you keep going and keep going. And I'm sure you're still going and going and going.
Exactly.
The joys of being a spiritually aware person, right? You get to just keep gleaning the gold. That's fantastic. And so, all right, so in your story, you found these tools, you started actually practicing them. You had this momentous shift, seeing how you could it's not necessarily healing your past, which I actually love the fact that you're not actually talking about healing it. So really, I'm not sure if you do use that term or not, but it's actually assimilating your past. It's actually using your past. And that's actually what I love about it. It's not healing has a tendency to, putting things back to the way they were supposed to be or patching things up. It does feel like it's not so much healing that you're actually you use the word transformation, the law of transformation. It sounds like you're transforming it so that you actually do step into your better version of yourself because of your past, no matter what it is, which I really, really love. How did you start developing this as a program for others? Was this your first coaching? Like what was that journey like? How did you find that inner passion for this that you would bring to other people?
I had this contract with the bank back in Romania, and I was traveling around Romania, delivering different courses to these to the clients of some of the bank's branches and also to their employees. And on my way, I was traveling with a lady. Her not real name is Sarah. And we had a conversation about her past. She was left with her father, her mother leaving to a foreign country, and her father was mentally unstable, and also he had drinking issues. So imagine this was this little kid who was 12 years old, and she was responsible for her father. And she said, I was so scared to go home because I didn't know the state of my father will be in. So I didn't know what to expect. I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel secure. And I was so deeply resenting my mom that she left me with my father. And she rationally understood why her mother needed to leave, but it wasn't compensating for the pain she felt inside. So I asked her the questions based on the law of duality. What was the blessing to you that your mom left? And she started to look for answers, and she gave a few answers and some more and some more. So we were in the car driving towards that destination. And at some point, after giving a few answers, I just felt that something is shifting in her. And she was silent for about 30 minutes. The silence was so perfect that I didn't want to interrupt in any way. But I knew that inside something happens, something shifts. So after we started talking, she changed the subject. So we talked about something else. And 2 weeks from that moment, we met in a gas station, and she literally jumped into my arms and said, thank you very much. You were able to sort out in half an hour issues that I wasn't able to sort out in years of therapy, different type of therapies. And I said, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. For this radiating joy of her face, I said, this is what I want on a daily basis. So starting from that moment, I started to take a lot of courses, including language and behavior patterns and different, because this is related to the law of fractals, recognizing patterns. And I started to take a lot of courses until I started to understand and work more on one-on-one, in one-on-one sessions until I developed my own methodology.
What a beautiful story. What a beautiful blessing. It's such a it's those wonderful aha moments that you truly feel that the universal source has just kind of said, this is what I need you to do, and this is what it feels like. And and obviously that manifested exactly how you knew it would. I I love that. I just love that. So okay, so tell us about your book. Let's actually dive into a bit of the book, and because it is coming out this month. Is that right? Yes.
Yes, I think we will delay it with 1 or 2 months. So it's
Okay.
possible that it will come out in June or July. The book is about the seven universal laws and a lot of stories about how I use those universal laws. The book is written together with my husband. We studied all the things together, almost all the things together. And that's amazing. I came with the very practical side of things because I had the practice, and this is my life's work in, taking these laws and sorting out problems with them. And he has more this research side and very grounded, and he comes from a background of highly religious family, so he's deeply spiritually rooted. This is why it's so beautiful, because these are mixed together. I wanted to become a math teacher. He has this spiritual background, and the book is written together, bringing in his perspectives, my experience.
Oh.
And each of the laws, each of the seven laws I'm using in my work has a chapter, and then a way of putting it all together. I'm very looking forward to have that. We are in the first editing now with the book, and I really, really look forward to have that on Amazon.
Oh, I love how you've written this together. What a beautiful, beautiful testament for for I know before hitting record, we talked about how you now are both traveling together and you are really going on adventures together. That that is a wonderful thing. Did he know about the universal laws before meeting you?
Um, I'm not sure. I knew I read the book before meeting him, the Kybalion. I'm not sure if he was aware of them before.
But
That's a
then
good
you
question
built
to ask.
together.
Thank you.
There you go. Ask him. Get back to us
Yes,
on
yes,
that.
definitely.
Because now I'm curious. Well, it's a wonderful thing when I mean, as someone who my husband and I've been together now for 23 years, and we've grown together in various spiritual work and back and forth. And he always laughs when in a session I'll be like, "Oh, it's like my husband just found out about this fact." It's a wonderful thing when you actually grow together and you get double the knowledge, as it were, in half the
Yes.
time, maybe. So that's a beautiful thing that you've been able to work that together. That's
And it
glorious.
helps because in the family you have the same language. And you said that you have the same language with your daughters as well. And with your husband, you are exchanging ideas. And then when somebody new comes into the family, he thinks like a bit, this is very interesting because we don't speak that language in my family. Come on in. We'll teach you, no
We'll
problem.
teach you. I know.
I,
I
you
think
have that too, right?
yes. Oh, yes, very much so. It's always fascinating, if our daughters are dating someone, our son's not old enough yet, but if our daughters are dating someone and they bring someone in, you can see this kind of, I think our daughters have gotten to the point of, will they pass this test? Our one daughter especially, she's like, if they're not going to pass this test, if they can't at least learn the language of my family, then it's just not going to work out, which I'm very thankful for. Yes. No, I love that. It's such a joy to talk with you. I'm so glad that we've done this. Thank you so much for coming on the show. How can people find your work? And what is the best way of them beginning to tap into this magic that you develop?
First of all, thank you very much. And I'm so grateful that we connected so well and we have lives like in a mirror, because you have same stories with your family. I have with my family also. The language we are using is aligned, it's
I
overlapping, it's beautiful. So thank you very much for
Thank
that.
you.
Um, Now, if someone wants to find me, they can find me on Monica with a C
Mhm.
dot CX.
Okay. Perfect.
Monica.cx.
Perfect.
And then you will learn there, you will have a PDF about the universal laws, a brief about the universal laws. It's not the book. You can subscribe to be notified when the book comes out. Also, you can learn about some of the programs, some of the group programs I'm running. Thank you.
Fantastic. And we will put those links straight into the show notes as well as any social media and make sure everyone can get to know your work because I think you are doing such a beautiful thing in the world. So thank you so much for sharing your light and your alignment and your path with us today and out in the world. I look forward to talking to you again sometime. It would be great to connect again.
Thank you very much, Christina.
Thank you.